Hey Gord, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Jacob, how are you?
I'm doing good. Great to see your face.
Great to see you.
So, you're a musician,
Yeah.
and now you're involved in a new enterprise, which we can get to later. But let's just open it up, chat about how you got started in the music industry, and give us a little bit about your history.
I've always loved music, but I guess my first real adventure in music started in 1984. And when I joined a traveling rock band back then, we had a school bus and you would do, your three sets of Iron Maiden and Judas Priest in every northern dive bar in Ontario and Quebec. And it was a great way to, just to learn how to sing and perform and survive and be a part of a team. And so that was an interesting time, and that led to writing my own songs and trying to get better at songwriting. And I guess fast forward into the early 90s, 89, 90, started writing songs, put a band together called Blu Bones, which was all friends of mine that had kind of come up with me in the cover band circuit. And um, Blu Bones had a record out in 1994 on Magnetic Air Records, which was a label out of Toronto that was distributed by Polygram A&M back then. And we made some videos for Much Music. And back then they were really supportive of Canadian bands. And we were fortunate enough to host, the Pepsi Power Hour a couple times and another show called The Wedge. And they played our videos quite a bit. So they got to tour and play with, a lot of the bands that were around back then. So some of the legacy artists like Kim Mitchell, April Wine, Lee Aaron, we would do shows with them. And then we'd also do shows with I Mother Earth, Our Lady Peace, The Tea Party, The Forgotten Rebels,
Yeah, yeah.
Svengali, the Killer Dwarfs, and of course you make a lot of friendships doing stuff like that. And I've always maintained a lot of my friendships with these guys, including road crew, road managers, sound men, the bands themselves. And I've gone on, I have three children. I'm a grandfather. I'm 55. And, music never allowed me to, buy a house or a car, although I had a great time in music. So, like most of the people I know, I had to get a real kind of paying job and raise my family. But I always stayed in the songwriting part of things, and I would still perform periodically all throughout the years. And got into producing other bands. I produced three records for an old Canadian band called Helix, and I at one point helped them get a couple brand new record deals about 6 to 8 years ago. And had the pleasure of producing a band from London, a metal band called Kitty in 1999. Um, their trajectory afterwards was amazing, and they started working with Garth
Definitely.
Richardson, who really helped them accelerate their career, and they kind of took me along
Sorry,
for the
Garth.
ride. So,
Garth, who?
oh, Garth
I'm just joking.
Richardson, yeah. And he's originally from London. Like his father was the famous Jack Richardson, who produced the Guess Who and trained Bob Ezrin. And um, so Kitty taught me a lot about what happens when you have a major record deal. I kind of watched that whole process unfold, for better or for worse. And we're still really close friends and family. We consider ourselves family. And I'm just grateful for those relationships and experiences. So about 2 years ago, Blu Bones decided, let's write some new music. And our goal was very simple. We just wanted to have fun, and we wanted to record music that we felt was fun for us to play, but we wanted to mix it properly and do high quality mixes and good quality work, because when we were younger, that was maybe something that we overlooked. So a lot of our older material wasn't always recorded to the point of completion, or wasn't finished the way we wished it was. So we did a couple of songs over the past 2 years, and we did some videos for those. We used good people. Maddie Green mixed both of our songs. down in Los Angeles, and he's got a pretty good resume. He's done all the Dua Lipa stuff, I believe. He did a Weezer album. He engineered a McCartney record, Ed Sheeran, and he was kind enough to take our money and mix us. But he did a great job, and that sort of led to a few different things. You know, we promoted our music and our releases through Eric Alper here in Canada, a publicist who used to be the head of E1 Entertainment. And about 2 years ago, he asked me if I knew what an NFT was. I had no idea. And he said, "Hey, man, Our Lady Peace is going to be releasing their new album through this NFT website. And if you can get your video minted as an NFT by Monday, you'll beat them. You'll be the first to do it." So that weekend, I stayed up with a pot of coffee and just watched as many tutorials as I could on NFTs. And somehow I figured out how to do it the long and hard way using Pinata and Rarible. And it's not easy. And I opened a Bitcoin wallet, and but we got it minted as an NFT, and then it became a story, believe it or not, that kind of got a bit of traction. It was in some newspapers across the country. You know, Blu Bones are the first band to mint a rock song and video as an NFT, which in hindsight, it's true, but I don't know if it really matters or means anything. So it was just fun. We kind of did it for fun. And the next song we did came about a year later because we moved so fast. Took us another year to write another song and make another video. And this time I decided I'm going to send the video to Raine Maida and ask him if I could be on his platform, Sing Market. That's like SING, like a singer. And he was kind enough to reply like right away, actually, like, "Yeah, we'd love to have you on the platform." And that sort of led to a couple of meetings on Zoom. And Canada Music Week was coming up, and he suggested, "Why don't you release your video live at Canada Music Week when Sing is down there having a presentation with their booth?" So that led me down to Toronto, where I actually met the CEO of Sing, Jeff Osler, and his partner, Jim Harmon. And we really hit it off. And since then, the relationship kind of started to develop. And fast forward to today, is I'm the talent relationship manager, and I'm a team builder at Sing. I work for them. I'm a partner there, and I'm working with other bands trying to help onboard them and kind of explain how we might be able to help them make a little bit more money than they're going to make on Spotify and all those streaming services that really don't pay well at all. And so it's a bit of a journey, and it's led me to meeting some really interesting people and learning a lot more about what we're doing as we do it, because we're sort of in the early days still of what we're about to do. And I introduced Andy Curran, who, for those of you who don't know, was one of the founding members of a pretty well-known rock band from the 80s called Coney Hatch. He also currently plays with Alex Lifeson from Rush. And he also was one of the key managers at SRO Management, which managed Rush, and at one point Van Halen. So he came with a lot of expertise and experience. And he's brought in another fantastic person, Julie Hoffman, who is helping us. And also I brought in my friend Harold Hess, Harry Hess, singer from Harum Scarum. He also masters just about every song we hear on rock radio. And just recently sold his studio, Vespa Studios, which was a fantastic facility that pretty much, again, like your Billy Talents, your Big Rex, your Big Sugars, your Bare Naked Ladies, everybody made records at his studio. So he's got a lot of expertise. So we're building what we call a cool hockey team. We're helplessly Canadian. And, so.
That's funny.
Yeah. I'm a bit in awe of some of their skills, and I'm always learning from them. And we have great discussions, though, and lots of ideas. And Um, we're going to help artists this year to do some pretty cool releases in a way that's really never been done before. And I think the NFT music model is still really in an early stage. And I think fans of music are really used to just, having a subscription to Apple Music or Spotify and just pushing a button, hey Siri, play the new, monster truck, and it just comes on. And that kind of convenience, it seems like music has constantly become more and more convenient for the fan to use. But that progress of convenience has chipped away at the revenue stream to the artist. And so because we are working in what they call Web3, and we're part of the blockchain, where an artist will be able in the future, we believe, to build a relationship directly with their fans and bypass any middleman, example, record labels, and actually be able to even track their royalties more accurately. And the new music economy, maybe for a lot of artists, instead of being popular across the world like a Taylor Swift, if you have 1,000 or 2,000 loyal, dedicated followers that are willing to support you, if they were to spend $100 on you every year, that's a lot of money. That's a lot more money than they'll ever make on Spotify. If 1,000 fans were to give you $100, and why would they do that? Well, maybe because you've offered them something so unbelievably valuable and rich, full of content, that they just can't resist it, and they want a copy of that box set vinyl with the poster and the stickers and the buttons and all this bonus digital content that you can't get anywhere else. And that's sort of where we're going with this. We're taking the digital brand new kind of NFT world and merging it with the traditional vinyl and CD world. And we're focusing on the super fan, not the general public. So every band has that audience, but then they also have that small group that are like really loyal and dedicated and want to support their favorite artist. And if I think if artists are engaging with their fans and giving them good quality music that's honest and true, it's gonna have some sort of an effect, where maybe the artist stands a chance of actually making a living. Because I won't mention names, but I'm sure you can relate to this too. We've all got friends with gold and platinum records on their walls that ended up having day jobs.
Yeah, especially here in Canada for sure.
Yeah.
It's a really Canada especially is a really tough market for artists, and it's interesting that with technology being the way it is, and as you say, fans have this unique ability to connect directly with a smaller group of fans via social media, and just have that fan to artist connection. There's lots of opportunities, and especially with this new technology and NFTs, it just opens up a whole new aspect of potential revenue streams. It's a really
Hmm.
interesting project you're part of. You're definitely in partnership with some really key players, and yourself included. You're a great person for the role that you're in. I think you explain NFTs, which can be like a scary and daunting thing, and
Yeah.
like it gets a lot of negative media in the press, like along with
Yeah.
like cryptocurrencies and things like that. And I think just the way you approach it and discuss it, and we'll get into the way you do that a bit later. But I just wanted to kind of take a pause from the NFTs and just talk about you coming up in the world, and kind of how you got there and some of the projects you worked on. Um, uh, you mentioned uh, you mentioned Kitty, and
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Kitty was like a metal band. It said like southwestern Ontario or something.
Yeah, London. Yeah,
London, and
yeah,
they just kind of exploded,
yeah.
and it exploded more than like most Canadian bands do. There's very few Canadian bands that kind of like get to go tour international, and like this just seemed to happen for them overnight.
Hmm.
And to go from playing Call the Office in London to
Yeah,
headlining what it was big, not the Warp Tour, it was the other big metal festival,
Ozfest.
Ozfest. Yeah, like
Yeah,
to go from playing Call the Office in London, which is a beautiful venue, I love it and I miss it dearly. It closed during COVID, but to go from that to playing
yeah,
you know at Ozfest is insane. And you were there for the ride, you saw it. So
yeah,
tell me a little bit about that, like initial um
yeah.
reaction, and like how did the
Hmm.
women in the band handle that? How did you handle that? How did the parents, and like what
Yeah, it
was
was
the just hold on, and what?
yeah, they were when I met Kitty, the two sisters, Morgan and Mercedes, the kind of it's their band. Um, they were 14, I believe, and 17 when I recorded them. So they were very young. It was 1999, and they were heavy as hell, man. And
Mm-hmm.
they had a vision, and they hadn't at that point quite grown into what they were hearing in their head. What I mean is they weren't actually able to play what they wanted in their mind as well as they ended up becoming about a year and a half later. They really got their chops together, but um, they were the real deal. And what I noticed about them was, like, first of all, they wrote all their own songs, and when they took off in London, London gives them a lot of credit now and a big pat on the back. And London likes to put their poster up at the London Music Hall of Fame. And London asks Kitty to show up at a lot of events today. But when they actually broke big, London turned their back on that band and accused them of not writing their own songs. They said stuff like their dad wrote all the music. They really got bad publicity here, and it was an interesting thing to witness. They were just sincere, honest young people doing what they loved, and I don't think they really knew how it would strike a nerve with their fans. Obviously, the name of the band, the fact they were all women, the fact they were young, the fact they were like brutally heavy, the fact that they had really, controversial lyrics. It was a really amazing thing at the right time. And the guy that signed them, Danny Goldberg, was the manager of Nirvana and used to work for Led Zeppelin as a publicist. So they immediately were thrown into the real world of the New York City music industry and all that part of that machine, that marketing machine. And they rolled with it really, really well. Um, they were invited by Pantera to do a world tour that ended up being canceled because Phil broke his ribs falling down the stairs drunk one night. But like they earned the respect of these bigger bands like Slayer and Pantera. They loved this band not because they were kids or they were young, but because they were actually like the real thing. They were
Yeah.
sincere and genuine. And so, yeah, I watched how the meat grinder took them and mass marketed them, and I stood on the stage watching them play with Disturbed and Drowning Pool, and I saw them on tour with Pantera. We played at the Beast Feast in Japan. It was the very last Pantera show ever, and I got to see that show,
Very cool.
and I got to meet Phil that night. Now I know why he was in a bad mood because they were breaking up that night. Um, so I mean, watching all of that, and and then I also watched the downside of it, and which was the battle between their management, which was their parents, and the record label trying to get paid, trying to get the money. And unfortunately, their father, Dave, passed away of a heart attack, which I'm sure, the stress of what they were going through didn't help his health. And the band continued on a little longer after that, and then sort of they moved away from the music business and got educations and into the real job world. The good news is Kitty this year reunited and
They
went
did.
over, and they played with Judas Priest, and they were like top billing, and they played to 90,000 people.
That's
And
awesome.
now they're gonna start doing shows again, I think, every year at these bigger festivals,
That's
and
great.
just select shows. And
Hmm.
I think there's some new music coming out from them, and maybe
Really?
some re-releases. Yeah, so I'm really happy for them,
That's
and
awesome.
there's still an audience out there. I know they sold a few million records. It's the biggest band to ever come out of London, other than Guy Lombardo
I
and
mean,
his
I
New Year's
mean,
Eve
I
orchestra.
mean, yeah, like that, like it. They were huge. Like
They
they were
were
all
huge.
over Much Music. They were all over the radio. They were on these massive tours. It's really cool to see a Canadian band kind of launch into
Yeah,
that kind of global success, because it's definitely hard. And there's a lot of you know bands that Canadians may think are like super popular and stuff, like, even like the Tragically Hip, who is probably one of Canada's most recent, like, legendary icons. They barely scratch the surface of the US market.
yeah,
So like
exactly.
to see this band like Kitty just launch into the stratosphere with this
Yeah,
fucking metal band.
power.
Yeah, it was
and
awesome
and
to
and
see,
in a
and I
man's
think it's so cool that they're back together. I would just watch like a documentary on them. What is it? Prime, I think it's on.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a great documentary, a great history, had a lot of insight that I didn't necessarily know about the band. It's
yeah,
definitely worth the watch. But so that's cool. So you've kind of you got thrust into this, like, the big club, right?
yeah,
That, like, small percentage of, like, these international touring artists headlining these massive festivals.
yeah,
And then so back then, though, let's just take it back a second. Um, a really different time, back when Kitty broke. I'm talking, like I mentioned, Call the Office in London, like
yeah,
a little club that was very, like, metal and punk based. And like, I'm sure when you were in your bands coming up, it was even more so, because that was probably, like,
yeah,
5-10 years prior to that. There were just all these clubs everywhere. Like,
yeah.
I'm sitting here in a really Ontario right now, where I grew up. I recently moved back here, and there used to be like a little 100-person venue.
Yeah,
There was like a 400, 500-person venue. There was a theater that had about 1,000 seats, and then a little black box theater that had 100 seats. There was like another, like, maybe like 200-person club. So there were, like, all these clubs to play, and they were busy. People went to them.
that's
The
right.
bands were coming in. They were touring. They could afford buses, like you said, to get around. Um, and what do you where do you think it is now with that, and how do we get back to, like, that, like, thriving, robust music industry, not only for super successful viral things, but just for
Right.
like that, like, hardworking blue collar musician in general?
It's that's a great question. I think COVID really, you know, put an end to all of that, whatever was left of it. And but what I'm noticing in London is more clubs are starting to open up,
Hmm.
that
What,
weren't there
the
before.
Palisades Bowl or something just opened? This
Yeah, the
new place?
Palisade,
Yeah.
and Tony Lima, who used to run Call the Office, is doing shows there, and he's doing ones at the Rec Room.
Cool.
Um, he just had he brings up some pretty cool punk bands from New York, um, and there people are going, and then Brandon Eady here in London, he runs Rum Runners, and so I'm noticing it's starting to improve. in this city. And
That's great.
another friend of mine, Ron Groins, he owns the PA shop, so they're a production company here.
I know Ron Schoen's really well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
So I
Actually, the
called
last
him.
time I worked with Our Lady Peace and Raine Maida, who you're working with, was I was stage managing a festival for Ron Schroins.
There you
And
go.
yeah,
Small
yeah,
world.
yeah. Great
So
shop
back
out of London.
when
They
we
got a
were
studio there
kid,
and great rentals. Yeah, shout out to Ron
it
Schroins, Kyle Schroins, and all the dudes from the PA shop.
and Ryan, yeah, they're. I've known them since those guys were babies, and their dad Ron at one point had one 10-ton truck with butterfly bass bins that my cover band rented in 1986,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
that's
Great
how
dude.
he started. So, but what he
Cool.
did, like during the pandemic, was he built. You might know this. He built a soundstage in his corralling area for the shop. He built
Yeah.
a. There was no more tours, so they built a stage and with lights and video and and for free, bands could come and video a
Yep.
couple of songs. And what he was telling me on the phone just this week was he was shocked by how good all these bands were and how many of them. Like he kind
Yes.
of felt at the beginning like, oh, this is going to be maybe a gong show. Like who's going to show up, right? Well, like the Trews showed up, and because they had nothing else better to do,
Yeah.
right? And so there's a lot of there's no shortage of new talent, whether it's country music, punk rock, metal, hip hop. There's no shortage of new artists out there. There's definitely the cost of living in general has gone up so high, like just the price of gasoline and van rentals, hotel rooms, food. Like, when we were young and we would tour when we were kids, like we had a hot plate and a
Hmm.
cooler and we could live on $65 a week and we'd have hot dogs and peanut butter bread and craft dinner with tuna was a luxury. And but even like today for a young band, it's very, very like I don't know how they could even do a string of dates and like afford to stay out there on the road. I don't know how they. So that is really because I've seen some announcements by some pretty major bands where they've canceled tours this year,
Hmm.
just because they can't afford to show up to their sold out tour. Like there's
Yeah.
the tour is sold out, but the money is not enough to keep them out there. So,
Yeah, it's an interesting time, and I like COVID definitely did some hits on it. And
oh yeah,
like as a tour manager, for instance, like I last year I did a 30-date tour, and it kind of got weirdly split up. Like originally when it was planned, it was going to be 2 weeks, and
yeah,
then a week break, and then another 2 weeks. And that's pretty decent for a tour.
yeah.
It was cross Canada, coast to coast, and I think PEI was the only place we weren't routed. But it because of COVID, it got split up. So it kind of became this like weekend warrior tour, and so
Wow.
when we first planned it and we first signed the contracts, um, it was we'd budgeted and you know and then with the new routing and the new dates, the we had to fly home
Oh
after
my
every two or
gosh.
three shows. So, add that up over 30 shows. That's a lot of plane tickets for the three of us
Yeah.
that were on the tour. And so, like, just that alone is like a huge cost. And that was because of COVID. So that's kind of over now. And like, we've kind of got back to like rescheduling all those COVID cancellation shows. But,
Right.
on the East Coast, I was looking for van rentals because there was a bit of space in between, and we needed a van to get around. And then
Yeah.
just looking at van rentals, and I was looking at for the 4 days we were there, the van was going to cost me $8,000. Now
Wow.
luckily, just through like some contacts and stuff, then like they contacted their friends, and we scraped together this van. This company, Rockbound Productions, helped us out and gave us a great van, and for like a good price. And
Yeah.
but if just like $8,000
It's
for 4 days for a van, like that's probably 3-4 times as much as a band is getting
yeah.
paid for a show, and then that's just the van. That's not hotels, that's not food, that's not you know popping a tire on the van. There's
That's crazy. I mean, I
yeah,
don't
so
know
it's
how bands
super
can do
tough
it.
to budget a show and budget a tour, and even these like you know even these bands that are playing these 1,000 person venues and under, like
Yeah.
those are the ones who are really getting tripped up the most. The mid-level and small level bands, it's just almost impossible to tour. um, so
Yeah. It's really made it that model of being able to go out there and by touring build an audience. And in Canada, it's always been hard because there's like such a
oh
distance between cities. Like
yeah,
once you get up to Winnipeg and then out west, or if you're going east, same thing. But bands could crisscross and do that 2 or 3 times a year and be
yeah,
able to like come back to Regina and actually sell 500 tickets or 1,000 tickets if they worked really hard. But the idea of that now is really becoming distant. And then there's this whole other social media movement where some of the bands and producers I've been talking to just this week, it's all about influencers.
yeah.
Our artist has 2 million followers on YouTube,
Mhm.
and then it makes me wonder. Well, does that artist even have to leave the house, right? Like the content they're providing is really good,
Yeah, yeah.
but I don't know if they're a touring entity, So there's
It's
so
interesting
many,
just because like for so long, ever since streaming came out anyways, touring and merch sales from your shows was the main bread and butter, and now that that's
yeah,
become inaccessible, I think people are like turning to a little bit more studio work, but they're trying to explore how they can keep
yeah,
themselves going by doing that. And streaming's not the answer. So I think it's really cool what you guys are doing with Sing Market, because I think NFTs. I'm not fully sold on them, to be honest, but
yeah,
I it's definitely a new frontier, and I definitely see potential in it. And there's some cool ways of getting these like kind of like limited special um, uh, collectible items from your
right,
favorite bands. But like beyond that, can you just tell us a little bit more about what Sing does, and like not only the
yeah,
NFTs but like the vinyl pressing and stuff, and talk
right.
talk a little bit
Well,
about.
I don't think NFTs themselves are going to save the music industry. It's just an NFT is like a short form for non-fungible token. What the heck is a non-fungible token? Like what the heck is a JPEG,
Yeah,
right? So, uh, you know, if I send you a JPEG of a poster, you can share it with anybody. You can give it away to as many people as you want, but there's no record of ownership. There's no who owned that original copy of the JPEG. So all NFTs are, in a simple way, it's not those funny images that Elon Musk's girlfriend sold. Yes, that happens to be an NFT, but an NFT is just a digital record of a transaction. So
hmm
if I sold you my car, we could just record that transaction as an NFT, and that could very soon replace having to go down to to the city and transfer title. Same
yeah,
with if you sell your house, you got to go through a lawyer, and the government transfers title on the
yeah,
MPAC website. Uh, any transfer of anything digital can be recorded as an NFT, and that way it's undisputable that
yeah.
who owns it.
Yeah, I think
You
I
is
think the
it,
other cool thing about it too is like not only for like the like uh sales part of it, like, putting things to sell on it. I think it's going to have a huge, like, and the blockchain in general is going to have a huge part in, just like music copyright, and like a whole new
Yeah.
way to like put an
Hmm.
end to all these lengthy court battles and everything
Yep.
on copyright. So
Like
that's a really interesting part of it as well.
yeah, you're right. Like Jacob, if we wrote a song on your couch for fun, couple chords, little melody, we recorded on my iPhone,
We should do
we
that.
can we should we
Yeah.
could upload that and mint it as an NFT, and then really there's no more copyright issue. It shows that
Yeah.
if we say, hey, this is us two guys, we just wrote this song, this is today's date, we wrote it, we own it, this is it, and we mint that as an NFT, like we're good, we're
Yeah.
covered. So Sing Market, actually, Raine Maida found them. He's always been into future thinking and tech,
He
and
definitely has.
yeah, and Sing was working as a patent company. That's what they were doing. They were protecting ideas, because even the traditional method of applying for a patent is not foolproof. There can be disputes, litigation. And so Sing was, someone invents a brand new paperclip. It could be photographed, talked about in a video, and Sting was protecting them by putting it up on the blockchain. And then you come along and maybe you change that paperclip a little bit. Now you get added to the blockchain. At this point in time, you made this little change,
Mhm.
and that's how Sing got their start.
Cool.
And
What
so
so just talking about, like, like new tech and everything, and one of the things, like, most of the time when I hear people talk about anything about music, like, I'm so on guard.
yeah,
I'm like, this person is selling me something, and I don't trust them, and I don't trust their opinion, and um the one thing that you were talking about in our last conversation was just bringing up the fact that Raine Maida was involved. And I have a huge amount of respect for Raine Maida, and the fact that he's always been like a futurist. It seems
right.
he in his last tour, he was really pushing the envelope when it came to his live performance, and using using like holograms and stuff. And then when I clicked on that article and read more about what he was doing, um, I saw that Ray Kurzweil was involved, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Because Ray Kurzweil
Mm-hmm.
is, if you're not familiar, he's a futurist. He's predicted all sorts of uh, tech trends, and
Yeah.
he's one of the lead. I would say the leading, if not one of the leading people when it comes to tech, and he has a whole history with music as well, with like Kurzweil keyboards and stuff. And like
Mm-hmm.
I think when he was like a kid, like in like elementary school or something, he like built his first like MIDI, or not MIDI sampler, but like what do they call them, like uh it's a like
Like a synth,
a
original
synth.
synth.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. It just,
Yeah. That's okay.
but yeah, but like he invented a synth when he was a kid, like on his own. Just and
Yeah.
so like I've always been a huge fan of Ray Kurzweil, and then like when I read that Raine Maida was involved, I was like, oh, cool. Like he's like, you know,
Yeah.
he's
They're
in it with the right people for like taking tech, because like I've been a tour manager forever, and I've done a million shows, and they all kind of look the same. So I really think it's cool when artists like explore new avenues of adding to their live performance.
right.
Yeah, so to put all that together, and then when you talked about Rain Maida being part of Sing, it, like, that's how I trusted you, and that's when
Hmm.
I thought that you were legitimate because of all that. Um,
He
so
started Sing. He actually is one of the architects of the original idea, and he used Our Lady Peace to test this out. So he really put his neck on the line, and things didn't go as planned. There was setbacks.
of
There
course.
was problems with the tech. He had a lot of explaining to do sometimes, and but he's never stopped, right? So I think when you're an entrepreneur, you have to sort of be uh, comfortable in a field of uncertainty, and you have to aim high and stumble uphill
Yes.
and keep going and then keep repeating. And so, I'm grateful that he brought me into this. We sort of connected when we had our first real discussion, and um yeah, speaking of Ray, like he's all over the last, like they've sampled his voice on the Spiritual Machines 2 record, and I still call them records. And I believe Ray's even introduced the band live in concert a few times, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe his predictions have been about 85% accurate over the past 40 years. So Ray talks heavily about the singularity movement, where
Yes, he
AI
does. Yeah.
becomes smarter than us. And we're potentially, that's going to happen within 7 years. But with Sting and what we're doing, it really isn't, it's not at all about Bitcoin. You don't use Bitcoin on our platform. You use Apple Pay or a credit card.
Yeah.
We're strictly about the artist and the fan and engagement and music. And we're just using good tech. But without good music and good ideas, the tech's not going to save us. It's not, the tech, it,
100%.
it, it's like when the CD player came out, we all went out and bought a CD player. They were really expensive. We all went out and bought probably like Dark Side of the Moon or an album we thought would sound good, put it in, hit play, and we wanted to have that experience. We were not that concerned with how does this thing work, or what is that silver filament, or some of us were, but for the most part, people just wanted to get that audio experience. So NFTs are really like the least important part of what we do. We're just trying to create, um, packages, bundles, vinyl CD releases that are for the super fan, that are just really damn cool and full of content, rich with ideas and creativity. So, the traditional re-release of, say, like I'll use Rush as an example, because of course Andy Curran with Sing is a big part of the Rush story, and I know he's a big part of those re-releases, and I know he did the Triumph Allied Forces box set that came out not too long ago, and he had to curate what was going to go in the box, and so you get old tour programs, you get old posters, you get old copies of tickets, you get pins for your jean jacket, you get a backstage pass recreated, and you get bonus vinyl. Maybe it's a live recording that they've never put out before. I know on one of the Rush box sets I bought, there's a whole other vinyl album in there with Billy Talent and other Canadian rock bands doing their version of Rush songs. And so you get all this cool stuff, you open the box, and everyone's different. I try to keep it all nice and neat, like a collectible.
Yeah.
If I was a kid, I'd probably wear the buttons on my jacket, or even, I still might do that today. So I'm a fan. I understand
Yeah.
what being the fan is. Like, I'm a super fan. I saw Duran Duran this year with my son. I ordered I have a Duran Duran Rubik's Cube because it's cool, and I bought it
That's
from
cool.
England. Like, I'm
Yeah.
just I'm a weird guy. I loved Kiss as a kid, so I grew up collecting. I have Rush
Yeah.
posters all over the house here, apartment. Anyway,
I've always been the same, like I was a record collector for a long time, and as a tour
oh yeah,
manager and being so transient, I ended up selling my record collection, but I collected that thing for the longest time, and
it's
being
fun,
so
eh?
transient, I moved thousands of records around, well, like so
Oh
many times,
wow,
and just
they're heavy.
yeah, that was the last time I moved. I was like, you know what, I can either get rid of this things or do this again in 6 months, and I decided to get rid of them. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Well, they're
I've always been like a music collector. Like I always buy the band's T-shirts and like cool merch, and
right.
like I have like like all sorts of just like little unique items that bands have, and I always
Yeah,
appreciate it when a band has unique merch, like beyond like a T-shirt or just an album. Like the
absolutely.
Rubik's cube. That's like super cool. And just like unique ideas. And I think that's where like NFTs are going to kind of like have this opportunity to like you know have this cool one of a kind unique item that maybe like you sell to like a small number of super fans, and it's like a video recording of like just like him someone doing it like an acoustic song or
Yeah,
whatever, and it's there you go,
behind the
it's
scenes, like,
special, and there's just so many opportunities in that
mhm.
to to grow that kind of unique
Yeah,
merchandise, as you will, market.
yeah.
Now, the other cool thing about Sing Market, though, and you mentioned it, like like pins and records and stuff. You kind of have a unique opportunity with the people in your camp for even being able to offer vinyl, because a lot of people now
Hmm.
can't offer vinyl just due to the Swifties and all of these other top of the
Yeah.
charts artists that have started pressing on vinyl again. But yeah, tell us a little bit about that process and how you've managed to sneak into still getting them done.
Well, that's just thanks to Andy Curran and his relationship with Precision Pressing, and that was founded and started by a good friend of all of ours, Jerry McGee, the lead singer of Brighton Rock. God bless him, rest in peace. He had the idea of starting a vinyl plant in Burlington. Everyone said he was crazy, and he had to go through a lot of hoops and rejection and to to try to do what he ended up doing. And I think Andy's been kind of with that organization from the beginning, and so it's really just about their friendship and relationship, and so we're very lucky to have that kind of a connection. And so what we're going to try to do is we're going to help artists do really special re-releases or brand new releases in limited collectible runs where you do get all this bonus content. But when you order the record or the CD through the Sing platform, you know your album's now on the way in the mail. But when you hit checkout, you're going to get all the high quality wave files, the high quality audio files of that record that you just ordered immediately.
Yeah,
Plus, you're going to get all the MP3s of that record immediately as a convenience. So
yeah,
you can start enjoying the music right away.
yeah.
And then
And
you're going to
any
also get,
bonus material.
yeah. So there's one release we're about to do where there's going to be 5 or 4 bonus tracks that won't be on the vinyl, acoustic versions of some of these songs. And um, there could be, like you said, video of the band in the studio, or
Hmm.
a tutorial where maybe the guitar player is breaking down how he did the solo. And but this stuff won't be available on YouTube and for free everywhere. It'll be
Yeah,
more collectible and special, and so it's just all we're really doing is taking a really cool vinyl release and that comes with a poster and cool content in the box, and adding even more extra cool content in the digital world.
yeah,
And but because those digital items, whether it's a handwritten JPEG, like a high resolution JPEG of the lyrics handwritten by the actual singer, um, you own it. It's yours. Like if I go to one of your shows and buy a CD at the merch table, that's mine. I own it. I can go to a record store and sell it next week,
yeah,
or I can hold on to it and gift it to somebody. Now with digital content that's an NFT, it is yours. It shows that Gord Prior bought this. It's mine, and now I can sell it one day. I can keep it. Sure, people ask, well, why can't you just make copies of it? Well, of course you can make copies of it, but it won't be the original. It won't have any ownership or faculty or value.
yeah,
So all NFTs are kind of doing is they're giving non-tangible, non-physical digital items the properties and faculties of
Sorry, you're breaking up a little, Gord.
Look, I,
Just hold on a
sorry,
second. It should just maybe come back in a second.
it was because I had a
There we
phone
go.
call come in.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
there we go. Okay.
So NFTs, like I'm holding a cup. This is a cup. I can touch it. It's my cup. I can sell this cup to somebody for 25 cents. So if I just share a file with somebody, it really doesn't have any value. So NFTs it's hard to wrap your head around it,
Yeah.
but they're giving non-tangible things a tangible value,
Yeah.
and showing a record of ownership. So if there's only
Well, I think
400
I think just
made,
like the you mentioned, like, why can't you just make copies and stuff? And like that's been like a huge topic of debate on any kind of NFT. It's like, oh, I can just screenshot that and put it on my profile picture, and like
of course,
it's like, but just like even just like currency, right? Like the Canadian dollar, that has no link to gold anymore. It's just a currency that is driven by like economics and like the way the market is, but
right?
and like trading with the US dollar. But I find like NFTs are the same, and in that, like, currency has always been like an evolving thing, and the only way that these currencies come into any kind of relevance is just people using them. So
Right.
like
That's a good
sure,
point.
somebody could say, like, oh yeah, like that's worthless, I could just make a copy of it. Sure, that's worthless to you, but to a fan that supported the band and bought that and has that and now it's theirs, like, that's something, and you can't
Hmm.
take that away from that fan, right?
That's
Like
right.
that's a special connection that fan has with the band. And sure, you can copy it and you can stream it, and but like, that person supported that band in that moment of time,
That's
and
right.
that's something cool.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And like, in the guitar world, you're probably familiar with people doing bootleg copies of a Les Paul, right?
Yeah.
And you can take the neck off and see the serial number, and they've gotten really good at even faking that.
Dude, like
But
almost like every one of my guitars is like a bootleg. Like, I had like a,
yeah,
like I had like a Kramer Strat, and, like I
yeah,
had like a Jap Strat. It's just, it's they're great, man.
they
Especially
are.
especially
So
80s Japanese stuff, man. It's just like, so there was such a golden time in guitars.
that's
I
true.
try not to talk about gear and tech stuff too much, but like, so
That's okay.
let's try to
Well,
move
I mean,
on.
what I'm seeing is like, so if Gibson does a reissue, say they do an Ace Frehley Gibson Les Paul in the future, uh, I've heard this through the grapevine. You're going to get that Ace Frehley copy Gibson, and you're going to open the case, and there's going to be like a plexiglass credit card in there registered to that guitar that you just bought. And you're going to scan that QR code or go to that URL, and you're going to complete your registration. And it's going to prove that you bought that Les Paul. It's yours. And guess what? That'll be backed up on the blockchain. That record of that purchase will be recorded as a non-fungible token.
Yeah.
So this is where NFTs might be able to, protect ownership where
Yeah, like
where they where
just
they
like if you think of the guitar as like a song, and like you can protect your copyright with a date stamp on the blockchain, right? It's like
That's right.
it's a just a like you said before, it's just a all it is a proof of a digital transaction.
That's
Really,
right.
really
And
simple.
that's gonna, very quickly, I believe that will be normal for the resale of people's homes, cars,
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
You'll be
It
literally just record that I just bought that guitar off of you, and like, okay, you want a receipt? Okay, here's the receipt, but it's an NFT.
yeah,
So the
NFTs are the Wild West right now. Like
yeah,
there's a number of ways it could go. There's a number of reasons why it will be successful or not successful, depending on consumers and
yeah.
content availability. But it's definitely the Wild West. There's lots of speculation. But I really truly believe what you're doing with Sing Market is interesting at the very least, because not only
Hmm.
you're selling these NFTs, and it's kind of like you don't even need to be into NFTs to do it, because you can just use your credit card or your debit
Yeah,
card, and everything else is like in the background. But the like as a former recovering vinyl collector, I like just being able to buy vinyl and have vinyl accessible, and for bands to be able to come to you and press vinyl.
yeah.
It is
We're
super
very lucky.
awesome. That's like a huge thing. So well, yeah, I wish you all the
Yeah,
success in it.
thanks.
And I think you're in the
I'm
camp with the right people, like I mentioned before, like with Raine Maida, and
it
him being
is
a
about
futurist.
aligning yourself with the right people. Early on in the Sing meetings that I would attend, I would go to these Zoom meetings and I would listen a lot. But I remember Jeff, one of the CEOs, he said to the whole team, he's like, listen, if it's not right for the artist, we're just not fucking doing it.
Hmm.
Like, it has to work for the artist. So
Yeah,
Sing is not trying to get rich quick. Sing is not trying to make a buck. Their whole Sing is built on the backs of musicians and creative tech people.
yeah.
So what an interesting
Well, and
combination.
analog world,
Hmm.
like it's like
Yeah,
this,
yeah. Everybody's either a musician or an artist or has worked in the industry at like you have, or they're a programmer from Apple who loves music, and so they've found Sing. And the idea is to help artists make some money in a new way so that they can afford to tour. So, I mean, if we can help an artist, and this is not an easy thing to do,
that's a really good point, is like using this to
yes,
get funds and making touring viable again.
yes,
It really could be a way to start bringing money back into these artists, because like I said, like streaming brought everything down. Now touring is inaccessible, so like like I'm praying that there's going to be some
hmm,
kind of way for these bands to be able to sustain themselves, and to grow back
absolutely.
that market that we were talking about, of all these like small to medium sized venues, being busy again, and
What
collecting
if
collecting grime in the walls and stickers on the walls. Like these things are like timestamps now. Like there's nothing new's been going on in them for years.
that's very
I'd love
true?
to see
I
like my
mean,
buddies go slap on a sticker at what used to be called the office in London.
yeah. The part I never brought up because there's almost too much information with what we're doing. When someone buys an album through Sing that is now going to mail a physical copy to your doorstep, and now you've also immediately got all this digital content up front that you can enjoy while you're waiting for the collectible record to show up with the poster inside it and all the cool stuff inside it. And then you've got all this bonus digital content. Maybe it's behind the scenes footage of them recording stuff. Um, the fan that bought that, the artist now has their email,
Yep.
and the artist can also at any point in time, without telling the fan, they can put more content in that folder. So if say artist A sells 500 albums on Sing with 500 pressed vinyl copies, signed, numbered, collectible vinyl. Maybe the vinyl's got colorful splatter color, really cool packaging, and you get all this bonus digital content. There's nothing stopping the artist a month, 2 months later, dropping another, hey, say it's a band like Monster Truck and they're in the practice hall and they're working on a new idea. It's not quite finished yet, but they've got a good head start on a brand new song. They film it on their iPhone. They can mint it as an NFT. And to those 400 fans that bought that collectible Monster Truck record, they can just drop it in their folder and go, hey, thanks for buying our record a few months ago. We wanted to kind of share with you this new killer tune we're working on. It's not finished yet, and check back for our next, drop, our next update. So there's this engagement
Yeah.
part now. It's almost like a subscription. It's a free subscription. You don't have to
Yeah.
pay for it, but it's gonna connect the artist and the fan in a way that is pretty revolutionary if the artist knows how to engage with them.
Hmm.
Because that's all the
Yeah,
fans really want.
that's really cool. I never thought about that before, and how like you can kind of like add to this like NFT bundle as time goes on.
You could keep
And like
adding
like
to
the
it.
sky's the limit with that. You can that like just with that alone, you can be so
Here's some
creative,
free
and
tickets to our like. What
yeah,
about
like offering
free
pre
tickets?
sales and stuff,
Yeah,
and like and curb it. Like I think it would be cool because like so like everyone went and bought, say, the Taylor Swift NFT, right?
yeah,
Now everyone who bought that NFT gets a pre-sale code,
yeah.
that you can go on their website and buy tickets and get there before it goes open to the public, and like
That's right.
the artists have that ability to negotiate those kind of ticketing terms.
Hmm.
There's like as you know, I've been developing a ticketing platform, about for
That's awesome.
yeah. So there's that I just related it to that, but there's the sky's the limit with NFTs. I think it's really, really the Wild West. Both with just cool new ideas for merch, and also that
Hmm.
like interaction that connects fans directly with the
Like
artist.
what about a Zoom link? Like you don't think of a Zoom link.
No.
The Zoom link itself is not an NFT, but you can mint the link in a zip file, and you can actually send out a Zoom link for a private concert,
Yeah.
like where the band can do like a Q&A, take requests, again, to just create an engagement with a super fan. And, so the potential for independent artists here, I love this example. I kind of came up with this. It's a story. Stories are a good way to communicate ideas, I think, sometimes. So imagine an artist, because I've talked to a few this past few months, that the most they can do is play a coffee house to 15 people. They're 15 years old. They want to be the next Billie Eilish. They're talented. They have genuine talent. They don't have money to make a CD or even press a T-shirt.
Hmm.
They can go to a coffee house and they can play to 15 people and record it on their laptop.
Yeah.
And they could have a QR code on the table and in like a little business card. And they could say to those 15 people, scan this QR code. And tonight at midnight, I'm going to take the show that you just saw and I'm going to upload it to the Sing website. And you just register with your email and I'm going to give it to you for 99 cents.
Hmm.
And you're going to support me and I'm going to make $15. Now that
Yeah.
artist just sold their first item. They've got 15 bucks, right? Now they can go back to those 15 people and communicate with them and say, I'm doing another show at the coffee house in 3 weeks. I want you to bring 2 friends, right? And now there's 45 people there.
Yeah.
And she does the same thing again. I'm going to record this show and there's a QR code on the table. And tonight you can buy that show because I can't afford to press CDs yet, but you're going to support me. And this time I'm going to charge you $2, less than a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And most people will support her. And then the third show, she can
I
afford.
get what you're saying, and like you can like
Now I got a
these
T-shirt,
indie artists
and
can do all sorts of unique
right,
ideas. But what I wanted to chat with you about is just about data,
right,
and the avenues that this data for an artist is going to open up. Like
right,
in like ticket sales, for instance, when
right.
an artist and selling company put something on sale, all that data goes to the ticketing company, you
Of
know,
course,
and they never share it with the artists. They don't release any of the information, so you don't know
of
who's
course
coming to
not.
your shows. You can't market to them,
Right.
and like
Why
saying
is
saying
that?
yeah, well, yeah, exactly, why is that, and like say you're like a label or sorry, a management company, like, and you're taking care of all like the marketing and everything. You're not really like open with, like, a band could really at any time just like look at things, but like,
Right.
you typically, they'll not be involved in that kind of stuff. So like these NFTs just gives this like I said, it's like that fan to artist
Yeah.
uh relationship that builds, but like not only for the fan, but like for the artist to be able to communicate with those fans, which is something that's been kept from artists through like
Yeah.
bogus deals and stuff like that, and just like manipulative practices. So like it's super cool that like this new frontier just opens up that extra thing, like all like, like I've talked about like tech and stuff, and like how I'm into, futurism and tech, and like
Yeah.
ever since the internet came out, like I remember the days, I'm going to sound like an old man, but I remember the days before there was the internet. And
Right.
like it was just such a mega different landscape. But I remember when, like, the first time I was online with a computer was on a bulletin board system, and like all a bulletin board system was like a computer to computer connection through a phone line, and
Wow.
like you could share files on it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I could put a file on this, your computer's acting as a server, and then communicate that to anyone who called in to my server. And then
Yeah.
and so it was like, you know like this is before web 1, right? And
Yeah.
then now we're in web 3. But like the when the internet first came out, I'm kind of going on a ramble, like I do this all the time
That's
whenever I
okay.
talk about tech, I'm just like blah, 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 blah. But so the point I'm trying to make is, all through the evolution of tech, I've always like daydreamed about the good that technology will bring. And all too often, I've seen technology just do the exact opposite, where, like,
Right.
it's like, oh, like, like with the internet, like anybody will be able to communicate with anybody, and that's cool, and you can't do that. But this brought like this like weird like control over like
Content.
of content, and and
Hmm.
then um like there's just lots of other examples of like how technology has been used to, like, not be like this like cool open space where everybody can create and converse. So like I really think the NFT world has the possibility of, like, you know if you know how to navigate
Right.
it, you really have that opportunity to kind of like bypass all that bullshit, all those like marketing tactics, and and like really just connect with the people who want to be there. And
Right.
it's like I said, it's the
And
Wild West, man, and
it
there's so
is.
many
Yeah.
opportunities within it.
The thing I've noticed is that since I've been with Sing since June of last year. When I did my first NFT almost 2 years ago without Sing, um, there was a story about Kings of Leon in Rolling Stone doing their whole release through the NFT world. I don't think it did very well. The guitar player from Cheap Trick, I think Rick Nielsen, if I got his name right, he did a NFT release just over a month ago, which were scans of his gear. And I think he ripped it down a day or
Oh,
two later.
see, I'd buy that shit.
Right. Well,
Fucking
but
gear,
it
man.
wasn't, it wasn't, it
Speaking to my heart.
wasn't, but it wasn't music. It wasn't all these NFT companies are gone.
Yeah.
All the NFT company that did Kings of Leon, they're gone. Sing is still standing because Sing has been slowly, carefully just trying to do something proper for the artist. Everybody else made it about the NFT. It's like,
Yeah.
come do an NFT drop, get rich, make money, flip your NFT resale value, you get a commission on it's like, I don't even think anywhere in our new vinyl releases that we're about to do. Keep in mind, we haven't done these yet. They're almost done. Within the next 2 months, we'll have our first two vinyl test projects. So we don't even have a proof of concept yet. There's a Sing Market website up there with music you can buy, but that's not at all what we're about to do. So we're in very early
Yeah.
days,
Yeah.
and we're talking to lots of people, but until we're going to take our own scrapes on the knee. So Andy Curran's putting out his record. Harry Hess, he's putting out a Harem Scarum re-release so that we can make our own mistakes. But the the whole get rich quick, we're not even mentioning NFTs. We're a digital record store. Like it's
Yeah.
like we don't need to focus on the tech. We need to focus on what the fan wants and
Yeah.
what kind of music we're giving you. And we're using blockchain and NFT to deliver all this high quality content. Like Raine Maida, Our Lady Peace, like he was super ambitious. He was actually selling stems to his record. You know, as a tech expert, an audio guy, those are massive, massive files. Like we're going to avoid that. Like, first of all, who needs stems? Like the odd producer, but like kudos to Rain for doing that. That's pretty damn ambitious. I think one of his drops, like just the sheer size of it was insane. So the technology allows us to do that, but
Well, for that though, like Rain and yourself and myself, we come from like rock and roll, right? Where
yeah,
you grab a guitar and you plug it in and you go. But I think there's like like some super interesting opportunities for like the hip hop and the sampling world for that.
oh
Like
yeah,
when you can just like buy an artist's like raw digital files that and you can throw that into your and
yeah,
like you can add the licensing rights in that NFT as well too, right? And
mm-hmm,
like and that world is massive.
mm-hmm,
That world has surpassed rock and roll, so that market is just booming. So
yeah,
the opportunities there are super cool. Um, and like I just like what I like I said, like I don't trust people when they talk about music and like the future of music, and like there's really few people I follow on like social media who talk about it, and like podcasts like this one. But what I why I believe in you, like after our conversation about this thing market the last time we spoke, was just the way you're not focusing on the NFTs, like you said.
not
Like
at
you're like
all.
you're branching out, and like with any good business, you have to be diverse. And if you're not diverse, you're gonna go away. And if you're not exploring new opportunities and innovating, you're gonna go away too. And you're
Yeah,
tackling both of those things. So yeah, kudos to you guys and your whole camp. I think it's really cool what you're
thanks.
doing, and I wish you guys
We're
nothing but the
trying.
best. Yeah, and like hopefully you get there, man. You never know, and
You
like,
know,
and if you don't, like, it's like, you have all this experience to like move on to the next
mhm.
thing, and
What do
I
we
think with
say? No
Rain,
harm, no foul.
exactly, and I think being in the camp with like Rain and like who's you know connected to Ray Kurzweil, and like I think like just that circle you're in is just always going to be on that like tech frontier, which is super cool and a very
Thanks. Yeah.
unique spot to be in.
You're wise to be skeptical because a skeptical mind is important here. And
It
even
is.
you know,
For sure it
we have
is.
we need a lawyer to help us with a lot of this because we need to put some of this into small contracts when we work with
Mhm.
artists going forward. So
I
the
think I think
lawyer,
too what you guys need is like a really good like, and you're part of this and you do it well, but like a strong marketing arm, because
oh yeah,
but yeah, because like public opinion and like the consumer habits, just like I said, said it before like briefly, but like NFTs, cryptos just got this like bum rap, and people are like
hmm,
like they'll either love it or hate it, or they're confused by it. So
that's right.
educate, and just like what I'm doing with my ticketing platform. I'm bringing in some like really innovative ways of ticketing, and like it's education and marketing that has to go out into the artists, the consumers, the promoters, the venues, and it's bucking the system, and people never like it when you buck the system.
That's right.
So to be out on the forefront of something is tough.
Well,
Um,
the lawyer we spoke to, um, David Steinberg. He's the drummer from the Mods, so he's a musician. He's also the lawyer for Rush, and he was like you. He said, "I'll be honest. Um, the whole NFT thing, you know, a lot of the artists he talks to and the people he talks to, they're like, no, 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 no. But then he met us and then he heard us talk
Hmm.
about what we're trying to do. And you could see the change in his entire face and expression is like, ah, this is very, very intriguing.
Yeah.
Right? So he's helped us put this into a language where here, and here's the other thing, you know, we want permission to put artists' music out, but we want to also support them in the way that the old record labels used to support bands with marketing and
Hmm.
artist development and nurturing an artist. So we're building that into what we're doing,
Very
but
cool.
we're not
Uh,
asking for your licensing and your publishing. So we're actually going to maybe be almost like a record company, but not a record company. And and that's really powerful
yeah.
because we're going to be able to produce vinyl, fulfill vinyl all over the world, provide bonus digital content, support and nurture artists, and let them have full control of their content and full ownership.
Yeah.
And so, you
And
know,
that's something you have to do these days, like
yeah,
any artist with half a brain would have figured out by now that like the, your own publishing is the way to go. And
yeah. And the labels,
like
they don't want
keeping
to
your
they don't want to do vinyl
yeah.
because it's a lot of work. So
Yeah.
that's where we can come
So
along.
helping artists, that's something that's always been important to me too.
Yeah,
And
sounds like that.
yeah, I kind of had this cool idea of the structure. I've been thinking a lot about the structure of the company and how I'm going to do that. And I settled on it being a not for profit. So it's going to be a not for profit
Yeah,
ticketing platform. And the reason I did that is just there's ways to move money around that's just
that's awesome.
not available with like a corporate structure. So I'm like you said, like cutting out middlemen and stuff, and like
Yeah,
all these ticket fees and everything, and all these weird fees going everywhere that nobody knows where they're going, and getting that money back into the pocket of artists. So like I
good for you.
yeah,
Like
so
that's
to like
amazing.
keep to stay competitive, I really feel like I can like lower my I feel like I could lower ticketing fees, right? And I can definitely curb scalpers and resellers. But the coolest thing I think about what we're doing is those fees. We can set those fees in different ways. So, say you buy a ticket for a concert at like a 2,000, 4,000 seat venue, like a bigger venue. A certain percentage of every ticket sold goes into a pool and then is given
Right.
to you know a smaller venue, a smaller artist, a smaller promoter, and the same with like if it's a sporting event, every percentage of a ticket sold goes to developing a sports team or something like that. So there's by cutting out these weird fees that a lot of these promoters do and ticketing agents do, and instead of that money going to make the ticketing market a $670 billion a year market,
Wow.
you know um, that money's just gonna like flow back down. And like I've always been a punk. I've always kind of been a little anti-capitalist, and so navigating business in this landscape has always been a challenge for me. And being like a tour and production manager has always been a challenge for me. Just you know being in certain countries, and
Yeah.
the workforce doesn't get paid, and it's just it's been a challenge. So what's super important to me is that like not just saying it, but like fucking putting the artist first. And like you as an
Yeah.
artist and Raine as an artist, I'm sure share similar values, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's super cool that you are helping out these small
We're
emerging
trying.
outcoming artists.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, someone has to do it. And if I always say to people I work with. If we don't do it, someone's going to try this.
Yeah.
But our intentions are in the right place. And like I said, it's still early. I don't want to sound too overconfident about any of this, but we're all putting everything we got into these first few releases. And um, if we can streamline it and get it running smoothly, then, and we'll be able to help young independent bands that are really interested in building a career, because right now, like, I was trying to help a local band. They won the high school battle of the bands. It's a
Oh,
punk
cool.
band in London, and they're getting all these streams on Spotify,
Cool.
and they're not making any money, right? They got
Yeah.
all these streams. So we put them up on the Sing platform. We just released one song for $2. And their friends, which are plentiful because they're all in high school and they play a lot in town and they have a huge network. They're all pushing back on what we're doing with Sing, saying, "Well, when's it up on Spotify? We don't play."
Yeah.
Yet they go do a gig with 200 people there, and every last one of them will buy a T-shirt, right?
Hmm.
But the kids, the audience, they're not used to paying for music anymore. You see, that's the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Like, they're just waiting for it to be on Spotify. They don't realize
100%.
that the band isn't going to make a dime from this.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I think
I think like you said, you put this vinyl on the Sing market, and you just get these digital
we're
copies, right?
combining it.
Or you
Yeah,
put a T-shirt on the Sing market, and you get all these digital copies. That package, that combo deal, is something
that's
that
the yeah,
the
that's
artist,
the part.
that the consumer gets. And the like if you're not talking about the NFTs and you're just like, here's a cool thing, and then like, oh, by the way, here's some more cool
Right.
shit.
Yeah.
It's a
But
good
getting
way of doing
getting someone
business.
to getting a fan right now to go away from Apple Music and Spotify and go buy your music here on a blockchain platform, that's not going to happen in
The
2023.
consumers aren't there yet. There's
Nope,
no doubt
no
about
way.
it. And
We
that's
know that.
yeah. And with the ticketing thing that I'm doing too, it's like, like I started talking about this with my good buddy Luke Westlake years ago. And Luke's actually from London as well. You may know him.
Yeah,
He has ties with Ron Schroyens in the PA shop as well.
that's
But
awesome.
me and him started talking about this like literally a decade ago, and at the time I thought it was such a cool idea. And then the more we talked about it, and we started poking holes in it and discussing it. It just it didn't make sense at the time, but
No.
I think now is the right time to do it. And I like, that's the thing about futurism and tech. Like, it's cool to be on the forefront of something, but it's definitely challenging. So like if I
Oh
came in,
yeah.
if I that I could have done this 10 years ago, but if I did it 10 years ago, you know, people
Would it have
people
worked?
I don't think we're ready for it.
Yeah.
It's like, what's that
Well,
Marty
I wish,
McFly in Back to the Future when he picks up the guitar and he's like,
yeah.
it's like,
Well,
you
I
might
think
not be
what you're
ready for this, but
doing,
your kids are gonna love it.
I love what you're doing, and I wish you
Likewise,
great
man.
success
Thank
with
you.
it. And
Thank you.
I'm glad that we met through social media, and we have a lot of mutual friends. And
Yeah.
I sure appreciate the support, and I wish you all the best with this podcast. I
Thank
think it's
you.
pretty cool that you're doing this, and
Thank you.
it'll just grow.
Yeah. No.
I was on a podcast once 2 years ago, and now I'm not famous enough to be on it. So I have complete
Yeah.
faith that you're on
Yeah.
a trajectory,
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
it sounds cool too, just that we're like we're both in these kind of um forefront of tech and stuff, and
Yeah.
a new way of doing things. And the
Yeah.
connection we met through Samantha,
Yes.
I met her doing this like COVID show. Like in a buddy of mine, Zane Von Hook, he produced this really cool uh, like show in his cottage in Muskoka.
Wow.
So like it was COVID time, so you couldn't gather, but you could go out on a boat and
Yeah,
that's what Zane did, and it was super cool. So like
that
we
is
had
cool.
the artists like playing around the fire, and then there was all these boats out in the water, and we had
Cool.
the PA pointed out to the water, and it was super cool. So like to that
Wow.
connection with us, and like that Zane kind of leading
And
that.
her dad worked for Rush.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I believe he
Yeah,
had Andy Curran's job before Andy, but don't quote me on that. But that's weird.
yeah, yeah. I was like this close to working like for Rush. I think like not really. Like I'm just like kind of being a little. Exaggerating a little bit, but like I worked with an artist who was with SRO, and
Right.
like I got super excited about it. It's super exciting just to get a new client, period. But when you get a client that's under the same management as Rush, you're like, "Ah, yeah!"
Yeah, of
And like
course.
they retired from touring that same year that
Yeah,
I started working with that artist. So
that's awesome.
yeah, it was. Yeah, like, I think every Canadian in the industry has some kind of connection to Rush. How can you not?
Oh yeah.
No.
They're part of our fabric of the music. They're architects actually of the entire music world because I think what they were together 40 plus years. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, I'm a huge fan.
Well, I know time is of the essence, and I
Yeah,
think you're hitting about your time limit there, so I won't keep
I
you
got to
too much
feed the
longer.
dog.
I can chat
Gotta,
about music with you all day long, and hopefully
same
we will
here.
soon too.
Yeah,
We'll chat on the Discord server, I'm sure. If
yeah.
you haven't already, join the Discord. That's where you'll be able to talk with Gord and all my other guests, and just a whole bunch of other people, friends of mine who signed up for it. It's really heavy into music discussions in the industry, and that's really where I'm trying to grow this community. So, yeah, look forward to
That's
chatting
great.
with you more. And thank you for your time. I
Oh,
really
likewise.
appreciate it, and best of luck to you in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Gord.
You as well.
All right,
All the
take care, mate.
best. Bye bye.
You're watching the Hostile Takeover podcast.